Welcome to Line Change, a podcast about hockey, social issues, and change makers in the game we love. I'm your host, Ian Kennedy. Thanks for joining me, and I am here with Laura Stacey, who of course is a Canadian national team member, a member of the PWHPA, and one of the key people behind, well, the key person behind the Sticks In for Charity Road Hockey Tournament, which is what I want to start talking to you about today, because giving back and talking about the impact of hockey in the broader community is a big portion of this podcast and something that I like to focus on. So maybe you can start by telling people about your Sticks In for Charity.
Yeah, I think it all started after the 2018 Olympics. I came back after having won silver or lost silver, I guess. And I was pretty, I don't know, demoralized. I didn't know what to do next. I didn't know where to go. I didn't know if I wanted to keep playing in the CWHL that year or take a break, or it was all kind of just, everything hits you really quick once you come back from the Olympics. And so it was my birthday in May, and me and my family, and specifically my brother-in-law, we were outside playing road hockey, just having some fun, shooting on a net and playing in the street. And all of a sudden, this big game broke out. People from all different doors on the street kind of came out and said, "Hey, can I join? Can I join?" And it brought us back to when we were kids and how we would spend hours just shooting pucks on the driveway or on the road until our parents kind of called us in for dinner. And so I think it sparked a little bit of an idea of like, this needs to happen more, or how can we make this happen more often, and get kids off their phones, off computers, off the video games, and back to playing outside, being active, just enjoying the company of your neighbors and having fun outside. And so instead of kind of starting a camp, which was another one of my thoughts, I thought, why not try something different and try and start a road hockey tournament? And to be honest, I just wanted to have fun. I wanted to kind of bring that exact game that we had on my birthday in a bigger scale and get the whole community kind of involved and have my friends out. And it ended up blowing up and turning into something way bigger than I ever thought it could. And now I still continue to this day. And obviously because it's bigger, now we have the possibility to use that momentum and use those funds that we raise throughout the tournament to give back and to get more kids involved in sport and to break more barriers and to hope that every single person has the chance to play sport. Because I think for me, I was lucky that my parents were able to put me in any sport I wanted, kind of at any time I wanted. And a lot of kids aren't given that opportunity. I think one of the stats that's pretty big in our tournament is that 1 in 3 children aren't able to afford organized sport. And I couldn't imagine not having that. So I think if there's one thing I could do is give one kid or plenty of kids an opportunity to not only enjoy sport, but grow that passion, find a dream just like I did, I think that would be a success in my eyes.
I remember going out into my dad had a barn, and we would play for hours out there, pretending to be, for me, I guess it was, Steve Yzerman or somebody like that at the time. But just imagining that, it was such a cool portion of growing up. And like you said, I think that's a big part in growing this game. And the NHL has actually recognized that a bit this year with launching NHL Street and getting back to that road hockey kind of mentality where we all just throw our sticks in a pile and form 2 teams. And there we go.
Yeah, and that's exactly what we do at my tournament is anybody can sign up, any age. Obviously, you have to be above 10 just for safety purposes and for my insurance purposes. But after that, it's anybody, and everybody throws their stick in that morning, and the teams are decided that morning. So no matter who you are, what age you are, you could be playing with a pro. There's a pro on every team, but then you could be playing with a next door neighbor, a dad, a mom, a kid, a son, a daughter, whatever the case may be. It's just awesome because you're getting to know so many different people and playing on different teams, and the excitement of where your stick goes is I think the best part about it. And obviously it's fun to play in tournaments where you get to play with your friends and put your team in. But I just think this difference of getting to know one another, having that community feel, and learning to play with other people is something that changed my life as well in hockey, and I think can have a big impact on younger kids.
It's obviously something that's part of the game, the best part of the game, is just having fun and meeting people and the community that you build through it. So that's a really wonderful model of sport that you're putting together there. And what does the money raised, where does it go to specifically kind of support those goals that you were talking about?
Yeah, so the first year, because we just thought we were having a fun tournament with all our friends, we didn't really expect, to be honest, to raise as much as we did. And so the first year, the funds actually went to two local schools in the neighborhood, or that weren't as well off, to buy athletic supplies for their recess and PE classes. So we bought balls and skipping ropes and a whole bunch of different cones and nets so that the kids could have we did an activity day where they had half a day off to just go outside and play all day long, and I actually attended them. And then the supplies were around for the rest of the year so that when the kids went outside, they could play basketball, they could skip, they could play soccer, whatever the case may be. So that's where the funds went the first year. The second year, they went to Grindstone to support. I think we ended up. I don't exactly know my complete how many people were impacted, but I think we raised enough money to help. I think it was 5 to 10 girls start playing hockey for the first time. And then the last 2 years, all the funds have been raised in support of Kids Sport Ontario. And the funds stay in Ontario locally. And it's basically what Kids Sport does is give a scholarship to a kid so that they can play a season of any sport of their choice in Ontario. And so I'm with Kids Sport again this year. I loved what they did with it last year. I think it's awesome to see the funds stay local in Ontario, in Etobicoke, but also or in the surrounding area, obviously. But I think when I talk to them too, it's just amazing to see the impact that they can have on the community and being able to play all those different sports, whatever that child's dream is, whether it's soccer, whether it's hockey. I think providing them with that opportunity to play is the most important thing. And so that's why we stuck with Kids Sport again this year, as I think it just kind of nails all those boxes of what we can do and how we can move sport forward.
Yeah, we know that in hockey, of course, one of the major barriers is that cost to entry. So those types of initiatives are fantastic. So I love this idea. I think that it's amazing you're doing it. And the idea of getting to play with a pro is often pretty enticing. Do you have the people lined up for this year's edition?
Yeah, we have quite a few so far. I think we're hovering around, there's 16 teams, and I think right now we're just over 16 pros. So we'll have at least one on every team, if not two on some. But a lot of my teammates on the national team, I think I'm really, really, really fortunate that as soon as I message out and say, hey, it's happening, save the date, a lot of them bite and come in and have some fun. And to be honest, they're what make my tournament happen. I ask them every year, and without fail, they all get back to me and fill the rosters up and are excited to do so. And I think that's what I appreciate the most is, yes, it's my tournament. Yes, it's like the foundation that I created, but it wouldn't be possible without all their help, because you're right. That is what brings the crowd. That is what brings the people, is getting the opportunity to play with the Sarah Nurses, Natalie Spooners, Marie Fleet-Polens. That's what brings people out and keeps them out. And so I'm really lucky to have them coming out and supporting me.
I was at the World Championships this year. I covered, I think, all but
Nice.
about 2 or 3 days of it in person, and even I felt a little bit starstruck at times. You know, finally sitting face to face after COVID again with a lot of the people that I write about regularly. So it was nice to see all the stars of the women's game there. Obviously, for Canada, not really the ending that you wanted, but another, it's still kind of that battle always, USA Canada. It's that back and forth that we never know which year is going to be whose. And Canada kind of had a little bit of a run with the World Championships, the Olympic gold medal. What was that tournament like for you, and the preparation this year through the PWHPA getting a little bit more structure than it's had in recent years?
Yeah, I think obviously playing on home soil is extremely special. Without it being COVID, and having that building packed every night was, I mean, it's amazing to play in front of those fans every single night. And so I think that's a pretty special moment. You're right. It wasn't the ending we wanted at all. And it's still tough to swallow. It's still time to reflect on it and learn from it. But then on the other side of that, I think you nailed it. That's how sports go sometimes, is especially between two really close teams. And to be honest, all the teams played really well throughout the tournament and have improved a lot. And so we know we have work to do. We have work to do to get back on top, to be exactly where we want to be. And obviously, it's frustrating and I don't know. It's upsetting when you think back to that game and to those moments. But that's what pushes you to keep going, to push harder, to get stronger, to do all those things all over again, and try to get back on top next year. And so I think that's the way we're trying to look at it. Is it happens sometimes, and you learn from it, you regroup from it, and you come back better.
And there was obviously some growth from the other nations there. Sweden was a very tight fought game. Of course, Emma Soderberg in net was spectacular there, and really probably the deciding factor in that game. But they obviously had a 16-year-old Hilda Svensson score that tying goal late, and Czechia was spectacular. And I remember interviewing Marie-Philippe Plan after the one of the games and asking her about that Czechia team. And, of course, the discussion there centered around Carla McLeod being the Canadian coach that was kind of doing it. And Marie-Philippe kind of gave this cheeky little side grin of, yep, I would expect her to do that with that team. What was it like seeing the growth of some of those other nations at the tournament?
Yeah, you nailed it. I think it's awesome. I think that's what we want for women's hockey in general. We want more people playing the game. We want more people excelling and getting better and striving for more in the game of women's hockey as well. And that's what's happening. And I think having coaches like Carla and all the coaches that we have in Canada and the US, I think the game is being pushed to another level, as you saw in Brampton. And I think it's going to continue to trend on that trajectory as well. I think even seeing it in the amount of fans we had in the building every single night, I think there's a market for women's sports. There's a market for women's hockey, and I think that was just another experience that kind of demonstrated that for sure. And I think you're right. I think Czech and Sweden and the games were physical, the games were fast, and the goalies played some really great games. And I think it's great for the sport and also great for us. It pushes us to be better as well.
It was definitely nice to not see as lopsided, and there's, I mean, the lopsidedness happens in men's hockey as well. So I hate that narrative that there's no parity in women's hockey, because it's I did a stat that the World Junior Men's Tournament had more blowouts than the World U18 Women's Tournament, and so it's kind of a little bit of a false narrative going on. But it was nice to see Czechia and Switzerland and Sweden and Finland come back into Group A for next year.
Yeah.
A lot of really incredible development. And you mentioned, the market for women's hockey, and I just want to ask you a little bit about the PWHPA and what your thoughts were on this season, getting to play on. There was 4 teams this year. They weren't the regional hubs like last year, so you kind of got that feel of representing somebody a little more regularly and playing for something a little more competitive than it has been in recent years. What did you think of the tour this year?
Yeah, I agree. I think it was way better being able to play on that consistent team throughout the year. I think obviously we're still pushing towards that league where you're set in your area and growing the game from that perspective. But that was probably the most competitive hockey season I've played since graduating from college. I think having those 4 tight teams with the competition spread amongst 4 different teams with people from all different locations kind of coming together. I think it was some of the best hockey I've played in a really long time since graduating, like I said. And so that's what really excites me. I think being able to play in that tough of games, that highly competitive games day in, day out, you have to show up. You don't know who's going to win on any given night. And that's how close those 4 teams were. Obviously, Harvey's kind of ran away with it at the end. But in general, if they didn't play their best game, any team could beat them. And I think that was the best part about it. And I think that's what really excites us about the future is that parity and how well the competition will be every single night, day in and day out, with the best players in the world competing against one another.
Mm-hmm. And it's been some time since those nations were kind of melded together, where teammates from Canada and the USA were all in one. Was there conversation among your team between the American and the Canadian players leading up to those final weeks when everyone knew that training camps and such were about to happen for Worlds? Because that seems like a more unique dynamic than there's been recently, where all the Montreal players might be together and all the Toronto players might be together. But this was, you're on the bench with people that you're just about to be rivals again with, which is something that in general happens in other international leagues, but has been some time for women's hockey, at least in the PWHPA.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think that at the very beginning, when we kind of had our new teams, it definitely was a little bit awkward. You're like, oh, I'm always playing against you, and now all of a sudden we're teammates. But I think once you kind of get into that groove, you get into that season, they become your new teammates. And yes, you don't train with them on an everyday basis, but you know what they're doing back home too, and it's very similar to what you're doing. And you're right. We would leave for rivalry series, play against them, and then all of a sudden come back together and be back with them. So it was a very different dynamic, but I think at the end of the day, when you're playing Canada versus US, there's absolutely nothing getting in the way of that rivalry, of that competition. And you're going to do whatever you can to win, regardless what side you're on. And so I think it's pretty easy when you come to those events to just turn it off, no matter if you're teammates before or after, your best friends, whatever the case may be. And then at the end of the day, when you come back to the PWHPA, we're all there for the same reason. We want to grow the game. We want to play high level hockey, compete against one another on a consistent basis, and give people the opportunity to see us play and dream about being there one day too. And so when you kind of look at it from that perspective and put those enemies or the rivalries aside, it's pretty easy to play with one another, and we have such great respect for each other as people and as role models of growing the game. So I think just changing that perspective of, yes, we are rivals. Yes, we play on different countries in international events and during rivalry series. But when it comes to growing the game and creating a league and building something for the future, I think we're all on the same page.
Yeah. Allies in one regard and rivals in another is a really apropos way to say that. It makes a lot of sense.
Yeah,
You're all working towards a common goal, but there are times when that goes out the window and it's
for sure.
time to play. So I get that totally. Now back to your charity one more time here. If people wanted to get involved, to learn more, what could they do to find out more or to find a way to participate?
Yeah, so registration is now open. There's only a few spots left, but you can register on my website, which is laurastacey7.ca. You can also send me an email through that website. You can reach out to me on Instagram. We're still looking for donations and silent auction prizes as well. And you're more than welcome, even if you don't register or you don't want to play, you're more than welcome to show up the day of. We have food trucks, we have games and lawn games and a DJ. And so it's more of a community street party and fun time more than just a road hockey tournament. So everybody's welcome out. Everybody's welcome to come support, to play, to donate. And if you want to volunteer, be a ref, all of those things, feel free to either reach out to me on Instagram or my charity email.
Well, thanks, Laura. I appreciate you taking some time to talk to me about this, and I'm really excited to see how well your Sticks In for Charity does again this year, because it's something that I know that we want to support through A, this podcast, and B, through the Hockey News' new women's site, and really to build up the good work that you're doing there.
I appreciate that. Thank you so much.